District Attorney, and I'm running for Brooklyn District Attorney because I feel strongly about fighting for justice, and I really believe that now is the time for a new DA in Brooklyn, more than ever. For those of you who don't know me, I just want to give you a brief background of who I am. I'm someone who was raised by a single mother who became a New York City police officer in 1973. My mother became one of the first women to ever go on patrol in the history of the New York City Police Department. She raised 3 children by herself, started out in public housing. My mother served 21 years on the force and put certain values in me, and put this passion to fight and stand up for people in my heart as a little boy. My mother gave me a tremendous example of courage and sacrifice, and because of what she did, I ended up going to NYU Law School. And I ended up working in President Clinton's Treasury Department down in Washington, D.C. And I did this as part of this investigation where the Branch Davidians killed 4 ATF agents. President Clinton ordered an investigation. I was part of that investigation. I wrote part of the Waco report for President Clinton. I came back home to Brooklyn and joined the U.S. Attorney's Office, where I spent 5 years prosecuting a range of criminal cases, from bank fraud to bank robbery to murder. And I did the Abner Louima trial when I was in the U.S. Attorney's Office. I'm the prosecutor who did the opening statement that led to the conviction of police officer Justin Volpe, who's now in prison for 30 years. I started my own law firm that I have now on 5th Avenue and 16th Street, and I've used my law firm to continue to fight for victims of employment discrimination, domestic violence, sexual assault, all types of civil rights violations. I am someone who feels very strongly about justice, and I believe now that we here in Brooklyn need a DA who's not only going to keep our communities safe, but who's going to make sure that every case is investigated and prosecuted with honesty and integrity. And we have a lot of problems now that we need to correct. I'm told that the DA came by and spoke with you. I'm glad he did. But I don't know if he spoke to you about what's going on. I don't know if he told you about the wrongful convictions that are happening right here in Brooklyn. Right here in our borough. Innocent people have been convicted for murders that they didn't commit. And now it's so bad that the DA has decided to investigate 50 homicide cases that are now come under question. How did that happen? Why do we need to look at 50 homicide cases? Because there's a possibility that some of the people convicted in those cases are innocent. And you might have read the news accounts that I read last week about the fact that innocent people were being taken to undisclosed hotels here in Brooklyn and held against their will in order to get them to testify at trial. Now, I'm not saying that. Former employees of the DA's office said that, and also said that they would sign affidavits in support of arrest warrants that were as if they were prosecutors, paralegals, signing affidavits as if they were prosecutors to get people arrested. We've got to get to the bottom of how that happened here in Brooklyn. And so you look at what's going on, you look at the crime rate. People don't realize that rapes are up in Brooklyn and other violent crimes. Rapes are up 23%. And in the 7-7 precinct, rapes are up. At this time, last year there were 8 rapes. Now there have been 11 rapes to date. Robberies are up. There were 118 robberies last year in the 7-7. There have been 147 robberies to date in 2013. Wow. I mean, there are real issues going on. And we know the gun violence that's going on. Literally, the gun violence is killing and destroying our children right before our very eyes. Look at what happened to this beautiful 11-year-old girl on Gates Friday night. Talani Mazer, standing there with her mother at the beginning of her life, shot, and now may never walk again. This senseless gun violence has us all in jeopardy, and we've got to have a DA that's going to want to tackle it. Instead, we have a DA who now thinks that it's important to have a reality TV show. I don't think that that's important. I think we need to have somebody who's going to deal with the issue of stop and frisk. Everyone in here should want guns off the street. Everyone in here should want crime to come down. I think we can get that accomplished without violating the civil rights of folks. And when I see the numbers of the stop and frisk, I become concerned. How is it possible that the New York Times did a story where it looked at stop and frisk numbers over a 4-year period, and it determined that in a 4-year period, a lot of the stop and frisk occurred in Brownsville. On an 8-block stretch in Brownsville, there were over 50,000 stops and only 25 guns recovered. How is that possible if that's based on reasonable suspicion? See, the Supreme Court said cops can stop folks on the street if they have reasonable suspicion that the person is engaged in criminal activity or about to. They can frisk them if they believe that the person is armed and dangerous. And that can't be based on a hunch. It has to be based on reasonable and articulable suspicion. A bulge in a jacket, the handle of a gun. So the numbers that we're getting should give us all concern. Because some of these young guys are being stopped without reasonable suspicion, and then they may have marijuana on them, so they got to empty their pockets. And then they're brought into the system. Many of them are coming into the system for the first time. And so their futures are being wiped out. How are they going to get a job later? How are they going to go to school? How are they going to even get an apartment and take care of their family? And so there are collateral consequences to the stop and frisk, the excessive use of stop and frisk. Now I want to be clear, I support the tool of stop and frisk if it's done the right way. If it's done the right way. And so I think what we need is a DA who's going to give leadership on this issue, who's going to speak to the police commissioner, who's going to work with the police to make sure the police officers are adequately trained as to what constitutes reasonable suspicion. The current DA believes that the issue of stop and frisk should be left up to the police. I don't agree with that. I think we need to do something about it. I also think we need to double down and do something about political corruption. You look at the Southern District, you look at the Eastern District. The feds are doing all of these cases. Where has the Brooklyn DA been? And I'm told that he feels it's a luck of the draw. No, it's not. It's not a luck of the draw. It's a matter of will. And so, what I intend to do is, I intend to bring change to the Brooklyn DA's office. One of the main things I'm going to do is, no one in Brooklyn should ever tolerate for 1 second an innocent person going to prison for a crime they didn't commit. That is not justice. So what I intend to do is, with wrongful conviction cases that are based on prosecutorial or police misconduct, I intend to ask the Attorney General, who just started a conviction integrity unit, I think last year, to investigate those cases. Because I believe that there's an inherent conflict between when the DA who helped convict someone and when there's allegations of police prosecutorial misconduct, to then turn around and investigate that. I think that we need an independent investigator. That's why I wrote a letter to Governor Cuomo asking him to appoint the Attorney General or another special prosecutor to look at all of these 50 cases. I also believe that what we need to do is we need to increase the number of ADAs in the public corruption unit. We need a real public corruption unit. We need to ask the FBI to come to the Brooklyn DA's office to help train the Brooklyn DA staff who are charged with doing political corruption cases. I think we need a labor unit in the Brooklyn DA's office, a real labor unit that's going to make sure that workers' rights are protected. Now, I'm an attorney in private practice, and I bring lawsuits for employees who are cheated out of their wages, and it's a civil matter. We have a lot of great, honest employees in Brooklyn, but there's some who cheat their employees out of their compensation, who exploit their workers. I think the DA has to be on the front lines to protect not only the hardworking employees, but to protect the honest employers who are put at a competitive disadvantage by those employers who cheat and violate our labor law. I think we need to do something about identity theft. I was a victim of it last year, and it was horrible. That's one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing crime in the country. We need to have look at what's happening in Manhattan DA's office. They're now building a $4.2 million cybercrime unit. with the city council money. Why don't we have that in Brooklyn? We've got to get ahead of this, not be behind. And so what I want to do is I want to be a leader as DA, not just a gatekeeper. I'm not interested in just replacing the current DA. I'm interested in revamping that office from top to bottom. And I think if you join me, we can bring great change here in Brooklyn. We can change Brooklyn for the better. It starts with each and every one of us. I intend to give the people of Brooklyn a choice. I want you to look at my background, look at my vision, and then on September 10th, I hope you will vote for me. And I intend to serve you with honor and distinction. I thank you for allowing me to come here. I'm sorry it's so late.